The shocking truth about the apocalypse, what they never told you about the end times. The skies turned an unnatural shade of green, swirling ominously like a cauldron of despair. Thunder rattled windows and sent shivers down spines. People gazed upward, fear wrestling with curiosity. It felt like the world trembled on the edge of something catastrophic, a monumental revelation just waiting to spill into chaos. Whispers of the apocalypse drifted through the streets, rising like fog. It was a sensation that gripped every heart and rippled through the air like static. The end of days was no longer a distant ghost but a tangible, throbbing presence. And then rumors began to circulate, stories of peculiar occurrences that had the locals on high alert. One night, a man claimed he had seen glowing figures moving at the edge of the woods, while another swore he'd heard voices echoing through the silence of the night, beckoning him closer. Everyone felt it, the vibration of the uncanny, the tightening in their chests. The strange might just have been unbelievable madness, but it peddled a frightening allure that no one could shake off. With each passing day, the little town of Willow Creek grew more restless. Shadows danced under streetlights as if whispering secrets to one another. One kid spotted an odd symbol etched into the trunk of an ancient oak. Some folks said it was a warning, others thought it heralded the rise of something dark. It was a stroke of unnerving magic, pulling minds into a frenzy. Was it a sign? A curse? Or had they all just lost their minds? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As night fell again, an air of uncertainty blanketed the town, wrapping it in an uncomfortable embrace. More and more people huddled together, sharing gut-wrenching stories that kept their imaginations spiraling. One tale described how a skunk, blaring into the night, suddenly shifted its gaze to the sky as if aware of something beyond reality. An eerie hush fell over the crowd, followed by gasps, as they realized, was it possible? Should they be afraid of something larger than themselves spiraling just out of reach? The claws of paranoia sank deep into the hearts of Willow Creek residents. There was an urgency, a sense that time was fleeting. The earth trembled beneath their feet, as the whispers intensified, filling their minds with questions. Who was behind all of this? What had they stirred? Who would be the first to face the truth of the apocalypse? As the streets descended into darkness, echoing with worry, hope flickered dimly like lightning bugs in a storm. Only one thing was clear: the end was coming, and it would change everything they thought they knew. The air crackled with tension as night settled over Willow Creek like a thick blanket of dread. People clutched their loved ones and whispered fears into the darkness, each word heavy with wild speculation. Children, unable to grasp the gravity of the tension, paused their games, sensing the adults' worries weigh down the atmosphere. Around a flickering street lamp, a group of neighbors gathered, their faces pallid. Mary, the local librarian whose laugh used to ring like music, now looked frail and haunted. "Did you hear? The lights went out in town square last night," she murmured, her voice trembling. John, a stout mechanic with grease-stained hands, leaned in closer. "Yeah, my sister saw something. She swears it was like nothing we've ever seen, shadows moving like a wave." The unease twisted around them, gripping like a vice. The wind howled, sending leaves spiraling through the night, echoing the dread coiling tight in their bodies. A distant crash skittered their thoughts, an abandoned cart toppling against the pavement. Just then, a low rumble erupted from the trees. It wasn't thunder. It felt alive. What if it really is the end? Someone dared to ask, the question hanging in the air like a pendulum. As if in response, the symbol carved into the ancient oak began to glow faintly, pulsing with a strange energy. The townsfolk gasped, stepping back as they squinted at the bizarre sight before them. "Is it a sign?" someone whispered, stammering. In that moment, screams shattered the tension. A girl, no older than 8, sprinted from the shadows. "They're coming. The glowing people. They're coming." Her eyes wide, filled with a blend of panic and wonder as she pointed back towards the trees, the crowd erupted into chaos. People abandoned their conversations, grabbing onto each other for dear life. Mary's heart raced. "This can't be real," she gasped. But something deep down told her otherwise, and just then, as if orchestrated by some unseen hand, the skies split open with brilliant flashes of light. A series of bright beams shot down, splitting the darkness with a horrific beauty. Gasps turned to horrified silence, every soul transfixed. "What is happening?" John exclaimed, clutching the arm of his neighbor, eyes wide. An earthquake of energy surged through the ground, causing them to stagger. The air vibrated, like an invisible force pushing against their chests. Fear tightened around Mary's throat, choking any rational thought. Was this truly the apocalypse? A desperation to escape surged in her veins. Suddenly, the bright flashes coalesced into shapes. Figures dressed in flowing garments appeared at the tree line, glowing and unreal against the backdrop of the tumultuous sky. They moved with an ethereal grace, gliding closer, illuminating everything with a cold, blue light. "Run!" someone shouted, breaking the spell, a mass rush for safety erupting. But Mary stood rooted, caught between fear and an overwhelming pull toward the luminous beings. "Why are they here?" she thought, as she fought against the tide of panic. Storm clouds swirled above, cracking with fury, drowning out reason. Willow Creek had changed in an instant. The truth of the town was peeling back, revealing something terrifyingly ancient and unfathomable. What were these glowing beings? Had the end truly come? Or was this just the beginning? As the townsfolk scattered into the night, a chilling thought gnawed at Mary: perhaps the answers they sought were hidden in the light. But would she dare to uncover them? The crowd surged like a panicked sea, desperate to flee from the glowing figures inching closer, their silvery light washing over the thrumming dread in the air. Mary felt the ground quake beneath her, a raw pulse resonating deep in her bones. She could hear the thundering heartbeats of her neighbors, feel their fear wafting toward her like a tangible fog. Fingers gripped her wrist, yanking her from her trance. It was John, his face a mask of urgency. "Mary! We've got to go." His voice trembled, blending in with the chaos surrounding them. Yet, a small part of her yearned to see, to understand what these entities wanted. "You can't just leave." Her voice broke the surface of panic. "What if they can help us?" John's eyes widened, and for a fleeting moment, doubt flickered across his features. But then a sharp scream pierced the night. A voice echoed from the depths of the darkened trees, an anguished wail that seemed to claw at the very fabric of the air. It was Sarah, a neighbor's wife. No one had noticed her trailing behind. "Mary, we're not sticking around to find out," John shouted, pulling her with all his strength. In that instant, the figures halted. Their heads turned as one, eyes glowing with an eerie intelligence that sent a jolt of terror through Mary. Shadows stretched and twisted, pulling at her legs like a beckoning hand from the grave. "Do you hear that?" Mary whispered, heart racing. Amidst the panic, a different sound emerged, a soft, haunting melody that danced on the wind. It was sweet yet sorrowful, wrapping around her with every pulse, every note drowning out the screams. "Mary, we're going." John tugged harder, and the sudden proximity of the being seemed to trigger a deep instinct to flee. She took a step back, torn between two worlds, the desperate cries of her neighbors and the ethereal song calling to her. The figures shifted, luminescent robes flowing like liquid light as they advanced, each radiant step leaving echoes of glowing footprints on the crushed grass. Mary took a deep breath, her thoughts racing. "What are you?" she choked out, her voice trembling amidst the chaos. The air fractured. One figure broke away from the group, moving towards her with gentle ease, a halo of blue luminescence surrounding it. As it approached, the nightmare around her softened. For the first time since the chaos erupted, her mind began to clear. "We bring a message, a truth," echoed a voice that resonated not in her ears but deep within her consciousness, vibrating like a long-lost tune forgotten in the annals of time. The words pulled her focus, even as the fear gnawed at her heart. "What do you mean?" she managed. "What truth?" But the figure paused, their luminous form pulsing as if conflicted by an unseen force, eyes shimmering with ancient knowledge. It glanced quickly over its shoulder toward the looming shadows retreating in the trees, and just like that, the spell broke. A shudder rippled through the being, and it momentarily sagged, flickering like a dying light bulb. I can't," it whispered, the timbre cracking like glass. Then it turned back to Mary, urgency radiating from its form. The shadows before it could finish, the figure was yanked back into the shadows, a scream drowned out by the urgent cries of her neighbors. John's grip tightened. Panic overtook Mary. "Let us go. Now." John's voice rang loud and true. He forced her to run, pulling her towards the outskirts of the town, chaos straining their union, and then, the ground heaved again. Mary stumbled, nearly falling. As she righted herself, a flicker of understanding washed over her. This was not just fear, it was a reckoning. The darkness was alive, hungry, and she could sense that it was no mere natural disaster. There was something deeper, something calling, waiting for her. Suddenly, the melodic voice returned, now louder in her mind than ever. The promise lingered like a faded echo, urging Mary to fight against the tide of fear. The answers were close, perhaps too close. Could it be true to find out what it all means? She thought, heart in a tempest of hope and dread, yet questions remained, and as they sprinted from the heart of Willow Creek towards the uncertain safety of the night, one thing was clear, the battle between light and dark had only just begun. But what darkness awaited them at the end of the road? Would she find the truth that was calling, or face an even greater terror lurking just beyond sight? With every hurried step, Mary felt her heart pounding as fiercely as the chaos behind them. She turned back, catching a glimpse of the glowing figures retreating into the shadows, their shapes flickering like dying embers. A vibrant shimmer of hope and despair coursed through her veins as the haunting melody resonated in the depths of her mind. "Mary. Focus. We need to keep moving." John's breath was heavy, laced with urgency, drawing her back into the present. He navigated through the throng of fleeing townsfolk, each face etched with terror, eyes wide in disbelief. Lights flickered ominously above them, casting elongated shadows that seemed to claw at their heels. "Can't you see?" Mary gasped, desperation creeping into her voice. There was something more to them. They were trying to know. John interrupted, his voice raising above the din, charged with emotion. "You heard what they said. The shadows, they want you to stay. Whatever they are, they're not here to help. We can't trust them. But what if they carry a warning?" For just a moment, doubt loomed in her thoughts. What if she made a terrible mistake by ignoring their call? What if they know why this is happening? A tremor ran through John's arm. "We're not risking it, Mary. We need to survive this." He pulled her forward again, more forcefully this time. The path before them narrowed into a dark alley flanked by towering buildings, the walls seeming to close in around them. Mary stumbled as they turned the corner, a gasp escaping her lips. The alley was congested with debris, but worse, the familiar sounds of distress from the crowd had faded. All that remained was an encroaching silence, thick and unsettling. "Where is everyone?" she whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. The air felt charged, almost electric, and Mary's instincts screamed at her to turn back. "Maybe they ran to safety," John said, but even as he spoke, uncertainty tinged his words. They pressed on, the darkness creeping further around them, squeezing the breaths from their lungs. Suddenly, the ground trembled again, this time more violently. Mary stumbled, slamming against a loose brick wall. Her mind raced back to the figure's warning. "The shadows, they're watching." John turned, panic flaring across his face. "What do you mean? Maybe they're not just shadows, maybe there's something more." She grasped his arm, a flash of insight illuminating her fears. What if the true horror isn't the night? What if it's what's hiding within it? Before John could respond, a chilling wind swept through the alley, an unnatural rush accompanied by a heavy silence. She felt it, an ominous presence stirring, echoing from where they had just fled. Mary turned, shadows crept from the inky corners, slithering into being, their shapes morphing into horrifying figures that pulsed with the same eerie light she had seen before. "Mary!" John shouted, disbelief contorting his features. It was too late. The darkness surged forward, a cacophony of whispers rising in pitch, each voice merging into a single haunting cry. "Leave, or face the truth." Mary felt a suffocating grip around her throat. "John!" She gasped, adrenaline coursing through her. He yanked her backward, and they stumbled, nearly falling. Her body tensed, caught between the alien creatures emerging from the gloom and John's desperate grasp, but in that moment, a flicker of determination sparked within her. "I have to understand," she shouted, shaking off John's hold. "We can't run forever." Before she could reconsider, Mary stepped forward, hands trembling, heart pounding. The figures stopped, still as stone, their light pulsating faster in rhythm with her racing pulse. She could almost hear fragments of the melody again, luring her closer, wavering like a candle in the wind. "Mary, don't." John's voice pierced the growing silence, lost in a tension that ripped through the air. But she stood there, teetering on the edge of salvation and doom. What twisted truth awaited her among the shadows? Would the answers protect her from the darkness or lead her deeper into the abyss? As the shadows danced and the wind howled, Mary prepared to unravel the mystery that wrapped around her like a noose. It was then she realized the darkness was alive. It wasn't just watching, it was waiting. In that moment, she understood, the shadows were hungry, and they weren't just after anyone. They wanted her. What awaited her if she embraced the truth? And would it cost her everything? Mary took a shaky breath, the weight of their haunted glances wrapping around her like a shroud. The figures before her seemed to pulse, their eerie light casting ghostly shadows against the alley walls. A part of her wanted to retreat, to give in to the panic rising like bile in her throat. But another part, a desperate, burning part, felt an unyielding pull toward the light. "Stay back." John's voice was rough, filled with jagged worry. Each word cut through the tension like a knife, jolting her back momentarily to reality, but the shadows shifted, coiling around her like tendrils of smoke. They flickered closer, whispering in voices that felt like rasping wind. "Embrace the truth, Mary," John urged, straining to reach her, but the air thickened around him. He struggled against an invisible weight, only half a step away, yet miles in her desperation. What was the truth? The question danced through her mind, the lyrics of the haunting melody intertwining with her thoughts. It was as if the very shadows were probing her memories, weaving an intricate tapestry of fears, dreams, and the essence of who she was. The shadows flickered, forming a more defined figure amidst the darkness. It stepped forward, ethereal and shimmering, its face obscured but radiating a palpable sense of sorrow. "We're not your enemy," it breathed, each word resonating in her bones. Mary's heart raced. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice trembling yet resolute. "To save." The figure tilted its head, the shadows shifting around, "to save the ones you love. Knowledge is power, and you have the key." John's pleas were drowned out by the swirling voices embracing her, rising crescendo without control. "You've heard us, our call. To reveal the truth is to change your fate." What fate? The realization hit her like icy water splashed against her skin. The town, the disappearing people, all connected to the choice she had to make. Blood pounded in her ears as she stared into the shimmering figure. Could it be true? Was this the path to their salvation? "Mary, please." John's voice broke through, a lifeline she hadn't even realized she needed. "Don't trust them. Don't forget why we ran." Torn between the shadows and John, she felt a pang of agony. Would embracing this strange force mean losing herself, losing him? Remember who you are, the haunting shape whispered, its eyes oh so familiar despite being hidden. You carry the past and the future. Only you can stop the cycle. Mary's thoughts collided in a whirlpool of time and space, creating dizzying patterns of light and dark. The way forward shimmered before her. Could she turn her back on this opportunity? In a heartbeat, she saw images flash before her, the town's bright laughter swallowed whole, the flickering lights turning to dark, John's struggle not just with her, but with the impending shadows that threatened to engulf them both. Time stopped. Embrace the truth. The shadows screamed, their chorus rising in urgency, an echo of a promise threaded with danger. She barely managed to utter, but before she could finish, a blinding light erupted from the figure, illuminating the alley, forcing the shadows back, revealing the twisted remnants of the town. John clutched her arm tighter, the warmth of his grip grounding her amidst the chaos. We need to go. But just as the shadows recoiled, something monstrous twisted in the air, forming into a shape that seethed and growled at the presence of the light. An ancient threat awakened and hungry. Face the truth. The echo thundered, shaking the very foundation around them. Run! Mary screamed, instinct kicking in. But where? Ahead or backward? The fear clawed at her throat as she made eye contact with the now fractured figure, both a savior and a monster. The ground cracked beneath their feet, and as the beast lunged forward with terrifying speed, she felt the heavy weight of choice drag her down. Would the truth free them or doom them? With every second counting, Mary knew she was their last chance. What path would she choose in the face of annihilation? Then a spark of realization cut through the dread. True power rested in unity, between shadows and light. As they turned to flee, time swayed dangerously, leaving her to wonder, was escape even possible, or was the truth about to consume them whole? The ground trembled as Mary and John dashed into the unknown, adrenaline pumping through their veins. Each thud of restless footsteps echoed against the alley walls, amplifying the terror that had tightened around them like a vice. Behind them, the growls of the beast deepened, a sound primal and full of fury, a relentless reminder of what they were running from. Keep going! John shouted, his voice strained but determined, breaking through the cacophony of shadows, screaming for her to embrace what lay ahead. The reassuring grip on her wrist pulled her forward, a lifeline in the dark. Mary didn't dare look back. The decision weighed heavily on her heart. Had she made the wrong choice by ignoring the truth, by fleeing instead of facing it? Questions flooded her mind, drowning out the sounds of the beast chasing them. What if the truth could have saved them? What if turning her back would cost them everything? The alley opened into an abandoned street, the dim light barely illuminating the cracked pavement. Shops stood derelict, items forgotten in a time long past. There were echoes of laughter, memories trapped in the warped glass of window panes, and a chill ran through her. Was this what the shadows wanted her to see? Was it a warning or a temptation? Mary! John's urgent tone broke her focus. He was pulling her toward a faint glow ahead. That way. We need to reach the street light. As they made their way forward, the glow flickering like a heartbeat, the air thickened with a sense of foreboding. It was as if the shadows were alive, whispering in hushed tones that twisted her thoughts. Faces formed in the darkness, loved ones lost, townsfolk vanished, all merging into a haunting mosaic of despair. Just stay with me, John urged, noticing her distress. We'll find a way out of this. We have each other. But they weren't alone. The piercing growls grew louder, closer. Shadows snaked along the ground, reaching out for them, and the light ahead flickered in and out of existence, as if sharing in their struggle. Then, without warning, the creature hurled itself into the opening, a mass of fury and teeth. Mary stumbled, nearly losing her footing. The sharpness of panic clawed at her throat. Run! John shouted again, and in an instinctual surge, she took off toward the light, heart racing. They burst into the circle of illumination, but the moment they stepped into the glow, everything changed. The shadows shrank back as if repelled by the light, revealing the battered remnants of what was left of their town. The truth of their reality stood stark before them. empty faces gazed from shattered windows, their expressions lost to the void, whispering echoes of despair. "Is this what you meant?" Mary gasped, feeling the weight of the memories crash over her. "Is this my truth?" The light John's eyes widened as the creature snarled in frustration. It felt trapped by the light, confined to the darkness it thrived upon. "It can offer protection, but at what cost?" Mary's voice trembled as she looked back at the shadowy creature, realizing it wore the face of everything she had ever run from. "What does it mean to face the truth of this? To confront the darkness?" The ground shook again, this time with an almost rhythmic pounding, signaling that the beast was still lurking, waiting for the moment to strike, to seep back into their sanctuary of light. Maybe the shadows were right. Maybe embracing the truth meant accepting their fate, whatever that might be. The creature let out a howl that echoed, sending a jolt of fear through her. The shadows flickered ominously, as if sensing the impending confrontation. Could they ever return to the life they once knew, or was there truly no way to escape the prophecy hanging in the air? Mary John said softly, looking into her eyes, desperate. "We have to trust each other. Will you face this with me?" Her heart raced as she took a deep breath, a decision looming dangerously close. The light around them refracted, revealing shocking glimpses of what could be and what had been. Was she ready to confront the truth, or would it consume her whole? In that fleeting moment of choice, a haunting voice echoed in her mind, "To embrace the truth is to change your fate." Just as she opened her mouth to answer, the very ground beneath them splintered apart, flames licking upward from the abyss. The beast roared, and with a wild surge of energy, the shadows morphed into a swirling vortex, drawing the light toward the unknown. Mary's heart raced in tandem with the flickering chaos around her. Was this the end, or merely the beginning of something more sinister? "Hold on tight," John cried out, his arms wrapping protectively around her. They were teetering on the edge of reality, flame meeting shadow in a final, desperate dance. But what would emerge from the chaos? With one final pull, the shadows and light collided, shaping their destiny in unimaginable ways. The air crackled with energy as Mary and John felt themselves yanked into the swirling vortex, light battling shadows in a dazzling explosion of color and sound. Helplessly, they clung to each other, the heat from the flames gnawing at their skin like a helicopter blade slicing through the thick fog of the night. "Mary! Do you see that?" John shouted over the cacophony. He pointed into the swirling chaos ahead, where a familiar figure emerged briefly, cloaked in shadows yet undeniably tangible. It was her father, his features drawn tight with worry, his mouth moving as if trying to speak but unable to break through the din. Mary's heart ached at the sight, memories flooding her with every heartbeat. "Let me go," she cried, struggling against John's grip. "I have to reach him." "Mary, think." John's voice boomed, pulling her back. "This isn't what it seems. The shadows want to trap you in your pain." A moment of clarity sliced through the chaos, her father's face melting away under the pressure of the shadows. She realized the figure was a fabricated illusion, a cruel figment designed to ensnare her within her own fears. Yet the abyss beckoned with its promises of truth and freedom, taunting her to step closer to the fierce light that burned in the distance. "We must find the center of the light," John yelled. "It's our only chance." Suddenly, a sharp jolt sent them tumbling through the vortex, the ground morphing beneath them as they spiraled through uncertainty. Mary felt the weight of regret swell inside her, a visceral pain at the memories she suppressed and the truths she denied. Each painful thought reverberated through her like thunder, shaking her resolve. The beast growled in the shadows, a menacing reminder of the darkness that threatened to engulf them. "Face it," she whispered to herself, the words barely escaping her lips. "Face everything." In an old, dark corner of her mind, echoes of laughter became cacophonies of despair. With every flicker of the light, the memories laid bare her mother's kind smile, her brother's triumphant shouts that aligned with the gnashing teeth of an unknown, pulling her to make a choice she had evaded for too long. As the tempest raged, Mary felt a sudden calm within, a seed of defiance urging her to confront the truth, they had lost so much, but they could regain control. Together, she said, determination hardening her voice, we can face this, John. I'm ready. Are you sure? John's grip tightened as he glimpsed the walls of light barely holding their shape against the crush of shadows. He hesitated, fear thick in the air. Yes. No matter what happens. With a deep breath, she let go of fear, the hard truth swirling around her. She dashed forward, plunging through the flames toward the heart of the light. John followed, their figures intertwined, moving as one towards an uncertain destiny, but just as they reached the central brightness, a dark claw shot out from the shadows, seizing John's leg with terrifying speed. He fell to the ground, a piercing cry caught in his throat as Mary turned, gasping. No. She fought against the surge to retreat, propelled forward by instinct and a fierce love that burned hotter than the flames. Mary! Don't look back. John's voice strained, still audible over the howling tempest that surrounded them. Her chest tightened, fighting the urge to succumb to despair. The shadows writhed, drawn to her panic, swirling closer, their voices rising in a fevered pitch. Join us, no. She cried defiantly, digging deeper to find strength. She couldn't lose him, not now, not here. With a sudden surge, she lunged into the cold grasp of shadows, her heart hammering painfully against her ribcage. She could feel John's presence slipping away. But in that moment, her resolve solidified. The truth would not be drowned in fear, it would rise to the surface instead, and just as she reached for him, she felt the dark tendrils shift, resisting the warmth of the light. There was a moment where everything could change. Together, John! She shouted, tightening her hold. As the vortex threatened to swallow them whole, Mary and John grappled against the shadows, hearts racing as the realization hit them. The darkness thrived on their fear, and to reclaim control, they needed to share their truth, but as they fought, a new figure materialized from the shadows' embrace, rich darkness swirling into grotesque shapes, faces of those who had come before, horror written in their features. Who are they? Mary gasped, dread surging anew. They are the ones who surrendered, John answered, conviction wrapping around his words. There was no time for hesitation. Mary's heart ached for the ones lost, yet a heavy question loomed above, could they truly withstand the onslaught and embrace the truth, or would they too succumb to darkness? With shadows closing in, they realized one simple truth: to defeat the beast, they must first unravel the secrets that had bound them. Would they muster the strength to expose their pasts and reclaim their fates, or would history repeat itself, swallowing them whole? The shadows converged, an ominous murmur washing over them. There's no escape, and then suddenly, a piercing scream echoed through the void. A scream that heralded change. What awaited them on the other side would challenge everything they believed. The shadows curled tighter around Mary and John, a living entity that seemed to breathe, suffocating their every hope. The scream had been deafening, a pitch that pierced through the chaos, and now it lingered in the air like a specter, a haunting reminder of the recently lost. Mary, stay strong! John shouted, his voice raw with desperation. He tugged at the dark tendril clamped around his leg, a bone-deep pull of pain radiating through him. Each struggle seemed to draw more shadows. Yet, in that maddening swirl of darkness, Mary felt a shift, an energy pulse that demanded to be felt. John! Hold on! She pushed against the heaviness, searching the darkness for a flicker of hopeful light. Remember what we talked about. It's drawing strength from us. If we face it together, we can. Suddenly, the figures of the surrendered began to step forward. Faces twisted with anguish, their eyes hollow, they moved like marionettes controlled by an unseen hand. Mary could see within them the reflection of her own fears, the ache of loss, the burden of regret. A chill snaked down her spine as their hollow eyes turned towards her, a collective whisper echoing in her mind. Join us, don't fight it, they murmured, voices melding into one guttural sound that sent chills through her. No! Mary screamed, her heart racing as shadows wrapped tighter around John. She had seen this before, the seductive allure of surrender, the quiet acceptance of fate. But she wouldn't allow fear to steer her fate any longer. Not again. Mary. We can't give in. John's voice mingled with the shadows, his strength wavering. She could see the fight leaving his eyes as despair crept into his heart. Look at me. Focus. She willed herself to stay grounded, even as her thoughts battled against the crushing waves of sorrow. We can defeat this together. Just like we talked about. The shadows pulsed again, and Mary felt the atmosphere change. In this new moment, clarity dawned upon her. She recalled everything she had buried: the sleepless nights, the times she'd allowed heartbreak to chain her. They had to be confronted, and only this truth could free them. Tell me your fears, John. She urged, forcing herself to breathe against the weight of the formidable darkness. We can't beat it unless we face it. John hesitated, but the shadows eased their grip slightly, curious. I am afraid of losing you, he admitted, voice quivering. After everything, the thought that you might not return from this, it terrifies me. The honesty of his words shattered her chest, but they also kindled a flame within. And I'm terrified of reliving the pain of losing my family. But I won't back down. You are all I have left. At her declaration, the shadows recoiled slightly, as if pushed back by the force of their truth. The sorrow they bore hung heavy between them, but so did their strength. The darkness trembled in response. Your truth. That's it. Mary shouted, dawning understanding brightening her voice. We can anchor ourselves with the light of our memories. Let us share everything, the good, the bad, together. For the first time, she saw a flicker of light break through the engulfing dark, a promise gleaming at the edges of their shared pain. They lifted their voices, shaking the shadows with their truths. I remember laughter. Mary cried out, the warmth of happy memories weaving through the coldness. I remember hope. Feel it with me. John resisted against the shadows, recalling every shared moment. The joy of a sunrise, the thrill of every adventure together. As they spoke, the shadows twisted and writhed, disoriented by the luminosity of their declarations. A sense of purpose surged through them, igniting a shield that deflected the tendrils reaching for their hearts, but the darkness swelled, the whispers returning louder, more menacing than before. You can't escape your grief, it will always return. Silence. Mary shouted, determination flaring in their intertwined voices. We choose to reclaim our memories. The dark figures hovered closer in response, their hollow eyes narrowing with rage, but they were faltering. Now, fractured by the clarity of emotion flooding through Mary and John. Yet even as their resolve strengthened, shadows surged anew, a deeper malevolence swirling around them. The darkness wouldn't surrender easily. A new, darker presence began to emerge from the depths, even more powerful and sinister. A shape loomed large and unnaturally distorted, slithering through the chaos like a serpent ready to strike. What have you done? The voice boomed, echoing through the vortex, chilling them to the bone. You've only delayed the inevitable. Mary and John exchanged a frantic look, trembling. They had barely made progress, and yet, the real battle was just beginning. Was this the monster feeding off their fears? Or something worse? The looming shadow loomed closer, and a single thought coursed through both their minds: they knew this was just the beginning of something far more terrifying. Are we truly ready to face what lies ahead? Mary whispered, her heart racing as darkness threatened to consume them once again. The truth stared them in the face, and the answer lingered ominously in the air with chilling certainty. The darkness swirled tighter, a menacing cyclone of despair that closed in on Mary and John. Their hearts pounded, each thump echoing through the suffocating air. The looming figure shifted, stretching out elongated limbs that seemed to reach for their souls. You think your memories can save you? It hissed, laughter laced with malice, reverberating like thunder in their minds. Your joy is merely a flicker, a fragile light. You know nothing of true despair. Mary's gut twisted in fear, but she felt John's grip tighten around her hand, grounding her. Together, they faced this darkness, breathing in the emotion they had summoned, channeling both the fear and power it held. "We won't let you win," John shouted defiantly. His voice cut through the haze, reverberating with determination they didn't know they had. "Ah, such spirit," the creature taunted, a grotesque smile forming as it loomed closer. "But that defiance will lead you to more suffering than you can imagine." "You know nothing about suffering," Mary shot back, fighting the cold fingers of despair that encroached upon her heart. "Not like we do." The creature recoiled for a moment, uncertainty flickering across its monstrous face. It was as if their words had struck a chord, disrupting its sinister rhythm. Mary took a step forward, urgency pressing her. "John, remember what we said about facing the past. We have to show this shadow our strength. Together?" he asked, hope visibly battling despair in his eyes. "Together." She felt the warmth between them grow, igniting a resolve that shimmered against the pitch-black surroundings. The shadows hissed, angry and desperate to reclaim their grip. It was like stepping into a maelstrom, but they each dug deep into their hearts, recalling every cherished moment, every ounce of love that had brought light into their lives. "I remember the taste of summer berries and the warmth of family gatherings." Mary's voice was strong despite the chaotic tendrils swirling around. The memories flooded her mind, and with each word, the glow of their truth seemed to expand. "I remember our first dance." The music swayed, the world faded away. John joined in, his voice steady, a gentle overtone to the rising storm. As their hearts intertwined in memories, light began to erupt from within them, pushing against the shadowy figure. Glistening embers of laughter and love interwove, weaving through the choking darkness, creating a barrier that shimmered with defiance. "No." The creature's voice thundered, cracking with rage. "You should be mine. This pain is your fate. Not today." Mary shouted, pushing back with every ounce of strength, yet, even as their light fought valiantly, the darkness roared, twisting and contorting. With a movement that sliced the air, it lunged toward them, a massive claw descending like a guillotine. Time seemed to freeze. Mary and John locked eyes, a fleeting moment of understanding passing between them. The light was strong, but would it be enough? Suddenly, the figure dissipated into a flurry of swirling shadows, dispersing only to materialize right behind them, jarring and cold. "Futile," it snarled, encircling them again, this time drawing closer, tendrils curling around their throats like a noose. "I will show you true terror." Mary's heart raced as they gasped for air, the pressure intensifying. She could feel John's strength faltering, his energy wavering beneath the relentless grasp of the shadow. "John, we can't give in. Focus on our light." But as the last embers of his strength began to dwindle, something deep within Mary awakened. An ancient fury seethed beneath her skin. No more would they be toys in this battle. "We choose to fight," she screamed, channeling everything left inside her. With a burst of courage, she turned fully to the creature, their memories transforming into a blinding light, erupting forth like a supernova. What was once a gentle glow erupted into a radiant blaze that consumed the darkness, forcing it back, but just as victory seemed within their grasp, the shadows roared, reforming in an even more twisted shape, writhing in anger, clearly growing stronger as they fed off the dread surrounding them. "Foolish mortals!" it bellowed, its voice rummaging through their minds like a thief. "You think you can escape the inevitable? You cannot hide from what you truly are." Realization burned in Mary's chest as they understood this shadow knew their deepest fears, their insecurities, and it was prepared to exploit them more than they had imagined. "What are we?" John asked, voice trembling despite his gallant demeanor. Terror washed over Mary, the weight of that question settling heavily in the air. They had unwrapped truths but had only scratched the surface of themselves. What dark secrets lay buried within? And as the shadows surged anew, ready to unleash a storm of terror, Mary and John stood poised to confront whatever they truly feared. Would their love be enough to unveil the truth, or would they finally yield to despair? "Prepare yourself," Mary whispered, eyes blazing bravely into the abyss. The darkness loomed closer, whispering all the nightmares they had buried. What would it reveal, and would they emerge intact? The shadows blurred around Mary and John, a crashing tide of unfamiliar pain and memories. The creature loomed, an embodiment of their fears and regrets, but this time, they were resolute. They would not fall to its treacherous allure. "John," Mary breathed, her voice barely above a whisper, "we have to acknowledge what it's really trying to show us. We've been running from ourselves." "Mary," he started, doubt creeping into his eyes, but she could see a spark of understanding glimmering there. "It thrives on fear and pain. But it can't consume what we refuse to give it." Mary's heart raced, each beat drowning out the monstrous growls echoing through the void. "We need to share everything." Together, John echoed, an oath of unity that melded their voices into a chorus of strength. With a deep breath, they stepped forward past the swirling tendrils of darkness, deeper into the heart of the storm. "I'm scared of not living up to expectations, of losing you, of never knowing what could have been." Tears welled in John's eyes, but he didn't back down. "I've buried so much, thinking it would shield me." The shadows recoiled for a brief moment, a ripple of surprise waves through the chaos around them. This small act of vulnerability, the rawness of his truth, brought a flicker of warmth in the icy grip of despair. Mary felt courage welling up inside her chest. "I fear the pain of loss. My family, my home, but I won't let this darkness define me. I love you, John, and I refuse to let this fear destroy what we've built." "Feel it!" John shouted, emboldened by Mary's strength. "All the love, laughter, and joy we can't hide from the hard things, but we can choose to embrace the good. Together, our memories are stronger." At that, the shadows howled, their growls reverberating as if shaken by some unseen force. The connection between Mary and John created a magnetic surge, the warmth rising within becoming a shield against the encroaching darkness. The creature lunged at them, its grotesque form rippling with rage, but their unified truth held it at bay. "You cannot erase us." They cried in harmony, and the explosion of their memories burst forth like fireworks, igniting the shadows that loomed menacingly. "I remember laughter in my brother's voice," Mary shouted, feeling the shimmer of hope resonating in the darkness. "I remember my mother's gentle hands and my father's wise words." Suddenly, light blazed forth from them, radiant and unyielding, illuminating the very fabric of despair that surrounded them. The shadows writhed and howled, hatred lashing out against the light, struggling to resist the truth that unraveled it. The creature twisted in agony, the brightness stripping away its power, but even as they surged, Mary felt another connection growing, a bond that transcended them themselves. She could feel the sadness of the lost townsfolk weaving around their feet, their cries of despair transforming into echoes of support. "Remember your voices!" Mary screamed, urging the whispered memories of Willow Creek to join them. "Let your stories be heard." And just like that, the collective luminance of all the townsfolk surged around them. The memories of laughter, of sorrow, of love and loss intertwined, illuminating the darkness with a brightness that shook the very foundations of evil. Together, they urged, hand in hand as the blinding light clashed against the shadows, expelling the anguish that had cloaked their town for so long. With one final push, the darkness curdled and then shattered, dissolving into harmless wisps that fluttered away. The air buzzed with the remnants of pain and fear, so many murmurs and stories fading into a silence filled with peace, and in that stillness, as the shadows dispersed, Mary and John found themselves standing hand in hand beneath a clear night sky, twinkling with stars that had been hidden for far too long. The wind whispered through the empty streets, finally carrying the bittersweet scent of hope. They turned to face the town. Willow Creek lay in stillness. It would take time to heal, to rebuild what had been lost due to madness and despair. But now they had truth and unity, a newfound strength that could unite every heart in the town. "Let us go home," John said softly, a mixture of relief and determination resting in his voice. "Yes," Mary replied, optimism flooding her senses. "Together, we can rebuild." As they walked back toward the town, the memories washed over them like a soothing rain, reminding them of all that was still alive within Willow Creek. They were no longer just survivors, they were bearers of truths that could drive them forward. They would not only endure but rise stronger with each shared story and each reclaimed memory. The past might linger, but it would no longer haunt. With every step, they embraced the hope of new beginnings, ready to confront whatever came next. Now, as this unforgettable saga comes to an end, let the echoes of their journey resonate in your heart. You need to subscribe now to ensure you never miss out on the next exclusive adventure. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and keep the magic alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. We want to know how this finale hit you, and please, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. This is the moment to show your support.